That's it. That's all. I'm saying goodbye. I'm done. Last time we pinstriped this saw blade, made it into a clock. I'm gonna give it away to one of you guys. Stay tuned for that. We also started some bed mounts and took the bed off. So that opened up a ton of work for us to do. So let's get after it. That time of year between late December and early January where time and days just kind of stop working right for a little while. Don't worry, we're gonna have a video up as soon as I remember what day it is. On this side here, we got this battery box. So we're working on making this bed mount on this side first, because then we could just duplicate it over there where we don't have anything in our way. And also at the same time, I'm kind of paying attention to this floor link that I want to redo. We're going to be doing some sort of cross member here in the front and redoing the upper bars so they're at a better angle. Not today, but I'm just keeping an eye on it. Today, we're just worried about these bed mounts. Obviously, we have two of them. We took some measurements and some notes last time before we took the bed off, so we know about where they need to go. "40 inches. I'd say that's at least 40 inches. Daisy Duke, what are you doing? You ain't going nowhere. Watch the paint. Man, thinking back, we've done a lot this year. A lot has happened. I just need a nice straight edge here where we're going to take our body mounts, bed mounts, and clamp it right there to the straight edge. On both sides. Right, Daisy Duke? Now what? Besides redoing all of this. And not all of it, just a four link. Lower bars and upper bars. And actually, the position of the lower bars is fine. I just want some beefier ones because we're doing bag on bar. The upper bars, they're at the wrong angle. They'd work, but we got the bed off, let's just make it right. We did a lot of work to that 78 Chevy Love. Bunch of cool interior stuff, some body stuff, some engine stuff. You have got to be shitting me. Put the dang thermostat in upside down. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Jack stands are kind of a mess over here. We could probably figure out something better to do with those. And you know what? Since we got this flat strap over here, maybe when we're done figuring this out, we can use that to try to clean this mess up. This is actually kind of working out. I went back and forth about, I'd say 7,000-8,000 times. Daisy Duke was no help. She just wants to go for a ride. Anyway, all of that is set up perfectly, I think. Three and 7/8. 3 and 7/8. We got them clamped to that straight edge, perfectly to the edge. We've got a 1/4-inch spacer between the straight edge and the cab. We should be all good here. Should. We packed up and moved 1,500 miles north from sunny, perfect weather, Southwest Florida to not so great weather, frozen Wisconsin. If it's gonna be like this all season, I'm not gonna make it. But you know, besides that nice weather in Florida, only thing down there for me was, that was pretty much it. They say there's no place like home, and they ain't lying. Well, we didn't really clean up any of this metal here. That's kind of annoying. I don't want to go through all that again. What if we just tacked it on so it doesn't move? Take all this apart, get the grinder in there, kind of clean it up, and then we can get a good weld on it. I think that'll work. I'm just an amateur hobbyist YouTuber. What do I know? I know it ain't gonna get done if we don't try. We could always redo it. Just like the 4-link. I gotta remember to get some new casters for this, because we kind of bent, broke, wrecked one or two when we moved. It's not the most stable thing these days. Welding cart casters. How do you spell casters? O-R, you dummy. Oh, come on. What do you guys do when you're at the end of the roll or the wire screws up like that? I fold it in half a couple times, put it in the vise, put the other end in my drill. Twist it up a bit, and I got myself some filler. You know, in case I gotta weld a big gap or something. I don't know, it comes in handy, all right? Better than a coat hanger. Quit drinking beer. Been almost 8 months now. Yep, beer's been replaced by iced tea and ice cream. Now that we got those bed mounts tacked onto the frame, I want to take this die grinder, get in there and clean up any of that paint and primer out of there so we can get a good weld on them. But it's still pretty early. I like to respect my neighbors early on a Sunday morning, so we have mentioned redoing this four-link a few times. The position of the lower bars is fine, but I want to get new bars. These are just kind of mocked up here. It's the upper bars that I'm really concerned about. This is a triangulated four-link, and I would like a little bit more triangulation out of it. So that's one thing. The other thing is my instant center. What I mean by that is the lower bar should be parallel with the ground. That's our lower bar. This rear end. So with that lower bar being parallel with the ground, we are going to imagine that it goes all the way to the front bumper. That's the front bumper. Are you with me so far? Good. So moving on up to the upper bar, we're going to draw another imaginary line to the front bumper again. So now my front bumper is my instant center. That is instant center because that's where the two bars come together. The upper bar does not need to be the same length as the lower bar, maybe 70% of it. And that center, think of it like the center of a circle. So when this suspension moves up and down, it's essentially following that circle. So the further out your instant center, the wider the circle, right? Right. If that instant center was further back towards the rear end, that circle would be tighter. Wrecked my drawing. So that's a much tighter circle, which means this rear end would follow that. Changing our pinion angle and moving that rear end forward and back much more with much less suspension travel. That's why we want our instant center to be basically as far away as we can. So that way that pinion angle and that rear end follow the wider arc, therefore changing less. And if you look at what we got going on here, our current instant center is more like back here. Something like this would work fine in a car where you got the back seat and floor and stuff to deal with. But if you got a truck and you got the room, we should do it right. So that's why I say I want to redo most of that four-link. We made a cool little mini bike. Gave the proceeds to charity and gave the mini bike away to a kid, and still kind of early. Let's talk about this pinion angle, because for redoing the four-link, we're gonna need to know that. When I'm building a bag truck, I consider it should be level. I like to drive it level. It sits down on the ground level. So we are gonna design it level. Throw this on the pinch. Yes, there's a pinch, and no, I don't want to talk about it. That right there is close enough to level for me. First step in finding the proper pinion angle. When I say pinion angle, I'm referring to the rear end here. If you didn't know, now you know. To find that angle, we gotta go this way. So I'm gonna take my angle finder and we are gonna set it on the output shaft of the transmission. Did that really say 5.3? It sure did. It's a tight fit in there, guys. We didn't really have much of a choice, but it's gonna be okay because the only thing that matters is that that rear end pinion angle is equal and opposite of that transmission. So that means if our output shaft of the transmission is pointed down 5 degrees, then that means this rear end needs to be pointed down at 5 degrees. But I thought it needed to be opposite. It does. It's all in the way you describe it. All right, so we are starting at the engine and we are drawing a line straight back, right through the drive line. That's through the transmission, through the drive shaft, through the rear end. Another imaginary line. That's an engine and a transmission and 3 carburetors. So moving back to the rear end, that's our differential right there. So since we're starting that imaginary line from the engine and we are going back and we are calling it down all the way through. Pretend we didn't fall off the table. So that rear end pinion, that also needs to follow that line. Dirt, dirt, dirt. So when we're looking at this, it is still down, down, down. See? So that looks like it's pointed up, but it's really pointed down. So really we could just take that opposite out of the equation altogether. It's just when you look at it, it looks opposite. Anyway, so if our engine is pointed down at 5 degrees, then our rear end needs to be pointed down at 5 degrees. So that would put our drive shaft here. And both our U-joints are equal, preventing any driveline vibrations and excessive wear and tear on our U-joints. So knowing that, that is why we want to keep our rear end following this wider arc, because it's going to prevent this from changing excessively. If we were building a static suspension truck, meaning it's just on springs, it's not on air ride or hydraulics that have lots of travel, we would set that up at what people call ride height. Since we are doing an adjustable suspension, we're going to want to set it up at half travel, which is all the way down to all the way up, right there in the middle. That's where we want to set this up. Usually that's pretty close to most people's ride height. But what we're doing is kind of respecting the entire suspension. It's going to be the same no matter what. It's going to change the least, because looking at this tight circle, if we set it up lower than half travel, it's going to change differently here to here and here to here. Where if we set it up halfway, it's just always the best it's going to get. Hopefully that all makes sense. So for all you guys that know a whole lot more than I do, if I was wrong with any of that, let us know in the comments. We did, however, have a huge loss. I lost my best friend in the whole world, our head supervisor, Missy. Man, that's a hard one. But something did come back though. After I sold my first truck 20 years ago, Mary Jane is back. So I got that going for me. out how to get out of here.
At your service, sir.
Hey, thanks. Everybody, meet Mary Jane. Stay tuned to see what we do to that. Hey guys, I can't wait to drive this truck again. It's been 20 years. Well, we're not working on this today. Daisy Duke, come on, we're not working on that today. We ain't going nowhere. Good girl. All right, what time is it? All right, back to bed mounts. Now we get some welds on those. We talked about all the fun me and my friends used to have. We got a good 8 squads. Show up, guns drawn. Get out of the truck! Get that shit, Bobo! Yeah! Come on, baby! All right, bed mounts are officially and permanently glued to the frame and tied to the battery tray here. So from here, moving on to the bed portion, we measured from this original cross member on the bed down 7/8 of an inch to our new bed mounts on the frame. And I'm totally wrong, it was not this cross member, it was the bulkhead front, whatever this part is of the bed, where the original bed mounts were. We just kind of replaced those. So we made that workbench over there. That turned out great. I love that thing. Used some old corrugated metal, used some old Model A hood sides. They could be Dodge Brothers. Either way, that's a cool workbench. Is it square? Of course it is. Did you check? No. She's good. She's good. She's real good. It's real square. We got some lights to put up here now too. That'll be neat. Here's my thought. We could take this piece of flat stock, this strap here, cut that to size, and weld it across here, making a stronger new mount on the bed. That would be my thought. And then we're not going to drill the holes in those or that quite yet until we get the bed on, so that way we can just run a bit right up through them both. And there's going to be a small gap in between the two, and we'll put like a rubber mount in there. $61.5. Is a Sharpie, especially a worn out one, the most precise way to mark this? No, it is not. Is it dango good enough? Yes, it is. Made this whole area closet, another closet. Did some pinstriping. It'll work. I like it. I like the colors. Works well together. Whew, you guys almost went down. Sorry about that. You're all right, right? Okay. We're gonna make a mark where these braces are, because we're gonna have to trim it out for that. Yup. Oh man, I could have swore I had a big stick of this. Son of a... I guess I used more than I thought I did when I made these. So what I want to do is redo these upper 4-link bars. I mean, we're going to keep the ones that I made here. We're just going to do it different. We are going to make a DOM cross member here that goes from this frame rail to that frame rail and brings these upper link bar ends up. But not just up to bring our instant center further forward. We're also going to put a little bit more angle on them, and probably in completely the opposite direction, like going outside here to inside there. First thing I need to do is source some DOM tubing here locally, hopefully. Tons of work to do before we got to worry about that, so we can get to this. We can mount some air compressors. We can permanently mount this gas tank, which, by the way, was up here originally. Moved it back there. We can plumb up the air ride. We can plumb up the brakes. We can plumb up the gas. We can finish the underside of this bed. That's it. That's all. I'm saying goodbye. I'm done. 2025, I'm done with you. It's been a year, I'll tell you that. So here's to a new one. All right, my friends, thanks for hanging out with me on the last video of 2025. Let's all have an awesome 2026. 2026. All right, guys, see you out there.